Hello everyone, this is Huafang Li again. In this short video, I'm going to talk about the global perspectives of nonprofit sector. So why we should study nonprofit globally. Now I cite the famous quote from Lester Salomon, one of the giants in the field. The global nonprofit sector is an enormously important economic sector, as well as a significant source of citizen well-being in countries throughout the world. So that's why, because of its important player and its a significant role in our life. So the United States Handbook on Nonprofit Institutes detailed some of the figures. So the whole sector accounts for an average of 4.5% of the GDP, employ 10% or more of the total workforce, and 33% of the revenue come from the fees for their services, followed by 32% from the government sources and 23% from the philanthropic giving. So this is the figures to show you, on average, the nonprofit workforce paid and volunteer versus the other industries in 13 countries. So on the left, that's the overall on average, and on the right, figure 2, that detailed the individual countries. So as for United States, we can see the paid workforce employed by the nonprofit sector is roughly 7.7%, while volunteers accounts for 2.5%, right? So that's in total employed more than 10% workforce. So this is a significant role in our economic and social life. So that shows you the nonprofit sector's contributions to GDP, including volunteers. On your left side, that's the average of 15 countries, and on your right side, the figure shows you 16 countries on average. And again, if we look at the United States figure, nonprofit paid and volunteers together, they contribute to 6.6% to GDP. And this shows you the share of nonprofits' gross value added in select fields in Portugal and in Mexico. So these are the examples, right? So if you see from on the left, figure 7, it shows you membership organizations the share of gross value added. That's the most, that's 94%, followed by social assistance, sporting activities, recreation, theaters, library and museums, health and education. However, now this is quite different, right, from Mexico. If you look at these figures in Mexico, you'll see education occupies the largest portion. So this is basically 21%, followed by art, entertainment, and recreation, other services, finance, insurance, health and social assistance, then professional, scientific, and technical services, and utility. So these two figures are quite different from each other, which means there's a huge variation across countries in terms of the nonprofit sector. And that lists the nonprofit's revenue by source and across different countries. And as you realize that there are 3 major revenues for nonprofit organizations: fee for services, government funding sources, and philanthropic contributions, donations, etc. And while the other actually refers to some of the organizations may have invest, and so they have investor returns, etc., financial returns. But if you look at the countries, right, all the revenue sources across different countries for nonprofit organization, you'll soon realize there's very few countries actually have other revenue sources for the sector the majority of the countries, they only have fee-for-service government funding and philanthropic contributions for nonprofit organizations, right? Now let's here look at one country called Portugal, and if you look at the Portugal, they have the majority of funds from government. That's quite actually common for almost all the nonprofit sectors in country. And then you have followed by fee-for-service and then philanthropic contributions. But quite unique for Portugal is that they have other revenue sources. Actually, close to 19% of the revenue sources come from other sources, including investment, etc. Right? And let's look at another country. It's called the Kazakhstan. Kazakhstan actually have 85% of the revenue generated by service fees, so which is quite large, right? Quite significant. And then let's look at the list, right? If you look at the Mozambique, 84% of the revenue is actually from the philanthropic contributions. So again, the revenue sources for nonprofit sector varies across countries significantly. So when we talk about global perspectives, we need to take different countries' contexts into consideration. And that shows you the average annual growth of nonprofit sector versus the GDP by different countries. And as you can see, again, in general, we will see like the similar pattern, right? If GDP increase, nonprofit revenue increases. However, that's not always the case. If we look at the Czech Republic and Japan, right? So they are quite the opposite side. So in Czech, and you see a growth 5.5% in GDP, but for the nonprofits, the annual growth actually declined by 4.6%. While in Japan, the situation is quite the opposite. While the GDP is declining, but then the increase 4.4% in nonprofits. And for the rest of the countries, both nonprofits and GDPs are growing together. So now let's look at another index which shows you the differences across different countries in terms of giving. So this is so-called the World Giving Index. Now this figure lists all the highest scoring countries over the 10 years. So it's aggregated. And if you look at the number, you'll see number one is actually United States of America. And now let's look at those bottom countries. These are the lowest scoring countries over 10 years in terms of World Giving Index, right? So the last one is China. So keep this in mind. The first one in the United States ranked number one, and China at the bottom ranked 126. These are the countries in the sample. Okay, so the question is why China is ranked at the lowest. Now people may offer different explanations. One's income, due to culture, or due to other reasons. But is it possible it could be the measure of the problem, right? Because there are three different areas the World Giving Index looked at: help strangers, donate money, and volunteer time. Now let's look at the top 10 countries by participation in helping a stranger, and you'll see Liberia is actually ranked the number one, United States the third, and China again at the bottom, right? But there's many reasons to explain why countries are different in terms of helping a stranger, right? Maybe it's a low trust in each other, or maybe this is just because of their culture. They are more less likely to be open-minded. Somehow they need more time to know each other, etc. Right? So that's for discouraging them to help others. Now, the other thing is about donation, right? So if you look at this, United States is not on the top ranked. Okay, Myanmar is the number one, and U.S. is not even on the top 10 list. Well, China again has a bottom, but not. No, this time is not at the very bottom, right? So it's ranked number 116. All right, it's the same a tie with Madagascar. All right, but what do we see in terms of volunteering time, right? If you are too busy, obviously you don't have time to volunteer, or if you in a society where you're facing rapid economic growth and social change, maybe this is another reason why you can't afford the time to volunteer, because the opportunity cost is just too high. Okay, so if you look at these two charts, and on your left you'll see United States again ranked quite high in terms of volunteering time, while China is at the bottom again. Now let's get one thing to explain further why China ranked the lowest. It may be the problem of the measurement. So this is a study published in Science, and it tests people's civic honesty around the globe. What they do is the researchers, they drop wallets, right, to see how many will be recovered or reported, or how many people will actually call the phone number or email the address that provided by the researcher. So here's the list, right? Now on the very bottom, the reporting rate, that's Switzerland, Norway, Netherlands, Denmark, Sweden, etc. Right? So all these Northern European countries. Well, at the very bottom again, that's China. So now you may wonder why, right? So is it because of Chinese people very dishonest or etc. So this is basically the three different conditions, right? So you have no money, a little bit amount of money, and big money, right? So as you can see, if you have big money, then people are more likely to contact you. But I would question, because the setting is really doesn't quite look like a lost wallet, right? So, and if you print something in English and they drop it in a country like China, where most people don't actually speak English, they may do not understand, or they're hesitated to contact you, right? Because they can't write in English, etc. And then there's also something called lost and found, right? In China, it's actually quite common, all right? So you will see those, if you drop in the subway, right? Every 500 meters, you'll see something like lost and found. So there's really no point for them to call you back, because they can simply drop it at the lost and found. All right. So again, if we are offering an explanation, this is because East Asia culture, and then maybe we see a similar pattern in Japan, right? Japan is ranked the lowest in terms of participating in helping a stranger, and China is so-called ranked the lowest in terms of returning a wallet. So again, in Japan, the unique culture is they have please, right? So most Japanese people, they won't directly contact you. Instead, they will ask help from the police. So if you lost a wallet, then the most likely they will be, give to the police, and the police force might contact you later. All right, so another explanation could be long working hours, right? This is quite simple. So again, as you can see on the top left side, you have Switzerland, Norway, Netherlands, Sweden, and Denmark, etc. Right? So all these countries, Northern European countries, they have very short working hours, right? And at the very bottom, on your right bottom, that's China, right? So Chinese people, they work for very long hours. So it's unlikely they are going to have much more time to contact you, return the wire to you. So simply they will either give it to police or drop it at lost and found, right? So if So then the methods needs to be questioned whether or not this is a suitable case to make a claim that China ranked the lowest because they have the lowest civic dishonesty level. Right. And finally, some other international issues I want to talk about is especially the double standards problem. So in Western country, or for example in United States, you have regulations in terms of child labor or union, right? But in China, child labor and union may facing very different roles. So, for example, here lists the United Nations Global Compact principles due to human resource, labor, environment, and anti-corruption. But we all know that in the field, especially in those underdeveloped countries, these international principles may not apply, or even in like nominally they should apply, but they was distorted in practice. Okay, so that will be all for this short video. Thank you very much.